So this is a pretty hilarious story here, and one that honestly gets me kind of excited and a little bit optimistic here. Now this is Candace Owens, and so basically she's decided to go on a rampage against AOC for whatever reason. The truth of the matter is Candace Owens is kind of fading into sort of, irrelevance essentially. She's sort of losing her name, kind of like Tommy Lauren did. Her heyday is over. Candace Owens is also kind of fading into the dark, and what we're seeing is a lot of these losers, a lot of these idiots, these psychopaths, these frauds, grifters, people like Candace Owens, people like Tommy Lauren, people like, Dave Rubin, they're starting to fade away in the aftermath of the Trump loss. So it's really good to see. And one of the things that makes me really happy here is typically when you would, go to a Candace Orleans tweet, the responses would be a bunch of like conservative bots, agreeing with her. But now it's a bunch of people shitting on her, which makes me feel really good, makes me really excited, because when you see someone as, psychopathic and, and as much of a liar as Candace Owens is, it's just great to finally see that kind of justice, right? You can see she retweeted her own tweet, try to get more attention. It says, on a day in which Alexandria Ocasio-Smollett is trending, please never forget the time that AOC staged a photo shoot dressed in all white at a parking lot to spread lies about immigrant children in cages. Faking her own attempted murder was the next logical step. So basically, I guess this all stems from AOC saying that she feared for her life in that situation at the Capitol. It's not really a situation to make fun of. I don't understand why AOC would make up something like that. Katie Porter is also there to verify the story. They were together. She gave pretty clear quotes. It's a bunch, like, anybody doubting it is just bullshitting out of their ass, basically. Just pieces of shits, pretty much. But what you can see here is this is a common conspiracy theory fake news piece that was pushed by right-wing pieces. Remember those photos of AOC, in the white shirt or whatever, and she's standing by the fence, and she's obviously emotional in the photos. And it kind of went viral. People saying, oh, she's just in front of a parking lot. Oh, what a fake, what a fraud. Now, the reality of the situation, okay, understanding what this was, these photos were taken in 2018. They were actually unpublished until like a year later. And this was actually at one of the migrant cages, basically, or one of the camps that had, kids in cages in Tornillo. And basically, this was before AOC was known by anybody. This was in like 2018. She was running for Congress, but nobody really knew who she was. So she was part of this protest that had a bunch of people. There's like 500 people at this protest. She was at this protest. So she attended a protest. The photographer took photos of her. I don't even think it was like a coordinated photographer. I think it was just someone working for the Texas Tribune. And it was just taking pictures of her at this protest. You can see other people there. This was a big protest. So this guy, Walter Schaub, he says, this is a lie, Candace Owens. I was there in Tornillo and saw AOC with my own eyes. Maria Teresa was there too, as were many others who oppose child torture. I paid through the nose for a last-minute ticket to be there. Felipe Reines was with me. And it says, here's a photo of AOC and Maria Teresa that I took with my own camera in Tornillo. Candace Owens, you should retract the lie you're telling about AOC, and if you're capable of shame, you should be ashamed for mocking the outrage over family separations and torture. And then he gives some more photos from that same exact day. He says there were upwards of 500 people in that remote desert location. So you can see this is a bunch of people. This is a fucking protest that she's attending. Now, what she's essentially trying to allege here is, like, this is what it sounds like she's trying to allege, right? This would be a pretty big indictment, right? Saying she got a photographer, she went in front of a fence anywhere, like let's say at a school or something like that, and then faked this emotion of crying and whatnot in order to basically create a photo op. That's slimy. That's fake. That would make me be like, what the fuck, bro? You did that? That's so fake. It exudes inauthenticity. That's not what this is. AOC is obviously very passionate about this issue. She's made this clear. That's why she talks about it so much. And it's obvious why she has ties to this. Obviously, she empathizes with her experience. And so it's obvious. So this is not what they're trying to make it out to be. But someone like Candace Owens just lies out of her ass. And so PolitiFact, says a viral image says Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez weeps over empty parking lot. And basically they explained the fence basically blocks off the entrance. There's like the fence, and then deeper in is the actual migrant camp, essentially. But protesters were not allowed past that fence. And so that was the fence that she was at. At the protest, there were like 500 people protesting. You can see this is basically what it looks like. I think the fence is like up there. Or the fence, I think, actually is right here. But, there's a bunch of people, and you can't move past the fence. And there's the migrant, facility, essentially. And so their ruling says, a viral image of Ocasio-Cortez at a 2018 demonstration at a Texas town on the U.S.-Mexico border includes the caption, AOC weeps over empty parking lot. Photographers at the scene who took photos of Ocasio-Cortez say she was not facing a parking lot, rather she was just beyond the toll plaza for the Tornillo facility. She's standing on a road that led to the Tornillo tent complex, which is in the line of her gaze as she stood at the fence. Pictures by other outlets confirmed the location. Snopes says the same exact thing, so, says it's false. So basically, this was just, it was heavily pushed by Alex Jones, by the way. That's what this Snopes article notes. But basically, the right-wing smear machine never stops. They just lie out of their ass about anybody, even Democrats, they just lie like crazy, right? So AOC was on the receiving end of this. Candace Owens trying to perpetuate this. But it's hilarious. So she actually responded to the tweet from Walter Schaub. He says, it's an empty parking lot. AOC staged a photo shoot in front of an empty parking lot. What do I need to retract? She saw no children in cages despite her tweet to the contrary, unless you have more photos. So I'm not sure what tweet she's talking about of her saying that she saw children in cages. The migrant camp had children in cages there. It's not a fucking zoo. They're not going to have kids in cages literally in the outside. So how would she directly see the kids in the camp? I don't understand. And just because you don't see the kids doesn't mean you wouldn't get emotional over knowing that there's a fucking facility with children in it. Is this like some weird conspiracy of hers that, migrant... Well, actually, I mean, not really even, that hard. Just to spread lies about immigrant children in cages. So I guess she's just claiming that the camps just didn't exist, which is, I guess, insane. You don't have to actually see the children directly. And no, the children are not going to be outside in fucking crates. It's like it's a zoo. They're obviously going to be housed inside of a facility. And in this one, they didn't let the protesters go in. And she would eventually, I think she would go like the year following when she was actually a representative. I think she took a tour in one of them. So it's not a photo shoot. It's not a photo op. A photo op would be she gets her photographer. I don't even think the photographer was connected to her. Again, this was an these were photos that were unpublished. They were not published. This was published way after they were taken. Way after they were taken. So I don't even think she really had a connection of any kind to the photographer. It was a protest with like 500 people. A photo op would be she hires a photographer or has a photographer on her campaign, says, hey, I'm going to set this up. We're going to go to this fence at the school, or just find a fence, and then make the background kind of look like there could be something going on there. And then I'm going to look emotional. That would be shady. That would be a photo op. This isn't a photo op, you fucking moron. This is literally going to a protest where there's a fence blocking the entrance to being able to actually go to where the migrant detention center is. So it's really bizarre. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with Candace Owens' brain. But again, like the worst enemy of Candace Owens is like actual receipts. She just makes shit up all the time. I know she made stuff up about the whole Kyle Kalinske situation with the debate. It was confusing. She was saying that she was in her sister's wedding, but she was challenging, Captain America to a debate, not long prior to that. And the wedding would have had to have come up in the timeline within like 6 weeks is when it would have had to have been announced. And weddings don't get planned in like 6 weeks, just doesn't happen. So she just makes shit up, and she's absolutely insane. It's crazy. It says also, why did you wear white? Why was she crying when she saw nothing but a fence? This was a staged protest with photographers in coordinated outfits. So a lot of these people are turning into Alex Jones. saying that it was a staged protest. So you're telling me, wait, so who's staging this at this point? Is AOC staging this? Is this dumb fuck aware that this was from 2018 when nobody even knew who AOC was? I'm very confused. What exactly is going on here? Who staged this protest? There were 500 people there. That's a big protest to stage. Was it staged by George Soros? The photographers were staging coordinated outfits? All these people are turning into Alex Jones, essentially. But what's really dope, and this is my favorite part of all this, if you go to any of her tweets, it's just people relentlessly shitting on her, which it brings me so much joy. It really makes me feel good. It's one of the few, there have been a couple things like, saying out loud Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, that feels really good. This is another one. If you go through these, man, people just going in on dumb fuck Owens, which is really lit. But it's a bunch of conspiracy theories. Why was she crying when she saw nothing but a fence? She didn't just see a fence. She saw the detention center, and she knows what's going on inside of them. So it's very bizarre, man. Super bizarre. Again, just to repeat for the last time, a photo op would be coordinating with your photographer to go in front of a fence that is not anywhere even close to a migrant center and doing this emotional fake stuff. That's not even remotely what happened. This is incredibly organic. This wasn't even something that was meant to be photographed on AOC's part. It was something that was taken when nobody knew her. She attended this protest with 500 people. Nobody knew who she was. It got posted a year later. It's literally what the photographer did. The photographer posted it a year later when she was actually known and said, hey, look, these are the photos from there. So the right-wingers just live in this world of disinformation, lies, fraud, etc. And, it's tough to sort of combat all of these lies. But, PolitiFact and Snopes aren't like 100% perfect. But it's pretty easy to debunk shit like this, especially, you see stuff like this. It's very obvious what's going on. And then she was just going on a tear against AOC because she's a loser and she's fading into irrelevance. But it is getting to the point for me where I'm starting to put her into the Dave Rubin category of I might just stop, in the future, maybe not even talk about this kind of a thing, because I feel like people making videos about this kind of stuff just in essence sort of fuels the fire, which don't plan to do with Dave Rubin anymore unless it's someone, shitting on him, basically. But yeah, Candace Owens. Also, I should mention that her aversion, essentially to, AOC showing this emotion, it seems like a projection essentially of her psychopathy, which is basically, here's another one. It says, here are more photos of AOC stage protest in front of a fence in which she falsely claimed children were inside being held in cages. There is a detention center where they're being held. And so this sort of repellence towards this feeling is something that I see a lot. A lot of the Republican Party and the right wing are psychopaths. They don't feel anything. Steven Crowder talked to Joe Rogan about how he doesn't actually feel anything, and so sometimes he takes Adderall to have some feeling. These people, they just don't care about people. And so when they see somebody having like an actual sort of, emotional response, essentially they automatically just like to call it fake because they don't feel anything. And so that's just kind of what they project. They project their own psychopathy onto others. And that's what seems to be going on here to me, is she can't fathom the fact that somebody would feel empathy or sympathy towards these people. And so what does she do? She just kind of says, oh, it's got to be fake. And that's kind of what the Republican Party is, but quite embarrassing from Candace Orleans.